Hello and welcome back to another Sensei Pongcast, video game book club. I'm your host, Sensei Pong. So, yeah, I've been alright. How about you? Now, alright, so this week's episode, I'm covering Kamiko on the Nintendo Switch, Shining Force, the Sword of Hajya on Game Gear and Virtual Console, Mega Man 2 on Game Boy and Virtual Console, and Rune Factory on the DS. So, as per usual, we'll just say, hey, Pong, what have you been playing as of recent since the last time you recorded? Well, not a whole bunch of much outside of the book club. Namely, Shining Force, a sort of Hajya. Because, well, I've been crazy, stupid busy, and I wasn't really able to finish any of them. Or really get to a point where I'd feel super comfortable about talking about these games. But some of them, I played more than enough to give you an idea of what it is if you're actually coming to me to be like, hey, do you recommend these? Do you enjoy what you see at the moment? Sure, okay. Let's do that instead. But, let's move on to the news in a little bit. But, well, it's all good. I was quite busy in my personal life and work, and for some reason I just didn't have that much time to just sit down and really play any of these a whole bunch. Like I said, Shining Force Sword of Hajya was the easiest pickup and play for me, which might sound kind of weird because it is an SRPG, but I think like my gaming tendencies tend to go in like weird little flows, and I tend to crave certain things more than others. And, 1 week I might be all about shmups, the next week I might be like just all down with like puzzle games, and the week after that I might be like knees deep in RPG for like a month or two or whatever, that kind of stuff. It just goes back and forth. I like varying it up, and I always have varied it up, and now it's just a thing that's just rooted in my gaming groin. But yeah, no, I love SRPGs, so, that's why I actually chose Shining Force Sword of Hajya. But we'll get to that in a little bit. Rune Factory was an interesting one. There's a couple things to talk about with that. Anywho, with that, I apologize. Luckily, this is just the extra credit podcast, so it doesn't really matter, does it? Really? Yeah? I wasn't expecting you to finish it, so regardless of whether or not you were expecting me to finish it, look, I didn't. This was bad planning on my part. Shining Force Sword of Hajya and Rune Factory, according to HowLongToBeat.com, combined together, has a playtime of roughly 50 to 60 hours. So, no, I ain't got time for that. So, there's some interesting news. I want to get to that. Let's jump onto that. So, get ready for the news. So the SNES Mini was announced as of super recently. By the time this podcast gets out and I can actually sit down and edit it, it's going to be like a few days old news. But I thought this was pretty cool. Now, yeah, you might be thinking to yourself, oh man, that's so cool. Or you're like, oh man, that sucks because I'll never be able to get my hands on one. Yes, I probably won't be able to either, but if you are curious about it, the lineup actually isn't that bad outside of one thing. And one thing. Alright, and welcome back. So, where was I? There is one thing, and I didn't notice it like right off the bat when I was like just skimming the list. But I noticed it on like a quick Google search. People were complaining about it, and I was like, oh, wait, whoa, yeah, that's not on the list. How could I forget about that? Oh, that sucks. Anywho, we'll get the basic things out of the way. According to The Verge, the Super NES Classic Edition will launch on September 29th for $79.99, essentially $80. It will come with 21 games instead of 30, but at the same time, I personally feel the Super Nintendo games have a bit more beef to it, so it's validated that 21 games is fine. regardless of that, what's going to be on the Super NES Classic Edition for the United States? It's going to be Contra 3: The Alien Wars, which is easily one of my more favorite games and favorite franchises. I love the Contra series. I love run and guns. I've always liked shmups, but I don't know. I've never really considered run and guns shmups, but the shmups wikia considers run and guns to be shmups. But I don't know. In some ways, it is. It's like a what is that called? A gallery shooter, but you're running on in a platforming world thing. Let's move on. Donkey Kong Country. That's excellent game. A little bit difficult if you've never played it before. Earthbound will be on it, so that's cool. That's a nice hefty RPG that you can sink your teeth right into and just like gobble it all up. Final Fantasy 3, which I I want to say it was originally this is quote unquote Final Fantasy 3 because it's a third game in the series, but I want to say this is Final Fantasy 2 for people that grew up with it because Final Fantasy 2 didn't actually release in the States. That was a Japan only release. I'm gonna have to look into that. One or the other. I'd say probably quite a bit better than the other, but if I'm right, it was Cecil, wasn't it? Cecil. Fantasy 3. Who? Ba da ba da ba. Okay, yeah, that's right. Yeah, Final Fantasy 3 is the one with the Onion Knights. This is one of my favorite ones. I don't believe I actually played it all the way through. Come to think about it, really, all the phones are going off now. All right, so yeah, no, the Onion Knight thing. It's cool. It's kind of I want to say all the characters are essentially blank slates, and then like similar to the Final Fantasy 1, you can like do things. And I want to say it was Final Fantasy 3 that has one of the derpiest classes you can choose. Though I liked it because it was kind of dumb. The librarian, and then you also have the alchemist that can throw bottles and stuff. Yeah, they're pretty useless classes compared to the others, but I just like the idea of a librarian throwing books as a battle tactic. I thought it brings me joy. F-Zero. I've never been really good at F-Zero despite loving racing games, but F-Zero is pretty good. If you've never played the original, really the only one. I know some of y'all will be like, but Pong, the other ones are really good too. And I want to say GameCube. Never really messed around with those. First one's really good though. Kirby Superstar is a good Kirby game. I'm blanking on this. Let me drink my Gatorade. Kirby's Dream Course. I want to say that was that like Marble Madness like looking one. It's pretty fun. They're both Kirby games. They're not like insanely difficult or anything. Usually, maybe they have like one point in it where it's like okay, but they're fun. These are good choices at the moment. Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past, good game. Mega Man X, excellent game. One of my favorites. Secret of Mana, another good RPG. Star Fox 2. Yes, you heard me right. Star Fox 2. Now, I'm not sure if they finished that up or what, but I want to say the game was essentially finished, but they never released it. So that's cool to see. Maybe they just threw that on there because they don't have to pay like licensing to a different company, and they're like, well, whatever, everyone's clamoring for it, so let's just throw it on. So that's pretty cool. I'd be interested to see any like Let's Plays of that or whatever. Street Fighter 2 Turbo. I want to say I've played a little bit of like a prototype ROM back in the day. There just wasn't much to it. It was like all range mode from Star Fox 64. It was pretty good stuff. But I like those like flight sim combat things. So I was a big Wing Commander nut back in the day. Super Castlevania 4. Awesome game. Super Ghouls and Ghosts. Another awesome one. I go through like a weird ghouls and ghosts and goblins like thing. every maybe like year or two. And I just like pick it up. I'm like, wee. Um, it doesn't really matter what version. I like them all. Super Mario Kart. I'm still terrible at that game. Super Mario RPG. Super Mario Kart on the SNES is not as easy as the other ones. Let's just say that. Though then again, I am far better on Super Mario Kart 64 than the SNES version. Probably only because it is easier. Super Mario RPG Legend of the Seven Stars. So it's nice to see that they were able to get a license for that because that's owned by was it Square or Enix? We'll just say Squeenix because that's the company now. Squeenix and Nintendo, so it's nice to see that. Even though they had Final Fantasy 3 up there, I know, whatever. Super Mario World, Super Metroid, Super Punch-Out, and Yoshi's Island. A pretty good, solid list. The game that everyone was like kind of sad about that is not on the list is Chrono Trigger, and I'm quite sad to see that not on the list. Now, if you're curious about the Super Famicom version for Japan, there are differences, just like the Famicom Mini that came out last year. So let's see where that comparison was. So instead of Super Castlevania 4, Super Punch-Out, Kirby's Dream Course, and Earthbound, which is kind of sad because Earthbound, Super Castlevania 4 are like I would consider top tier SNES games. They replaced those four with The Legend of the Mystical Ninja, which I want to say I've never actually really played that game through, but it plays a lot like the older Zeldas. So it's probably, a lot of people put it in high regard. So I would say it's a recommended game known as Gambare Goemon Yukihime Kyushutsu Emaki. It's hard to read Romaji. Super Formation Soccer, Fire Emblem, Mystery of the Emblem, and Panel de Pon, also known as Tetris Attack. So because of Tetris Attack and Fire Emblem, I'd be like, oh my gosh, which one is better? I don't know, because you're trading Super Castlevania 4 and Earthbound with Fire Emblem and Tetris Attack. Now you might be thinking to yourself, well, it's Tetris Attack. I don't give a crap. But this is my personal opinion, and my personal opinion is right. So, no. Anyways, that's about it. Don't expect to really grab a copy of this. If you do, you're lucky. Though, according to Nintendo, they will be producing a significantly larger amount of these than the NES Mini, which is nice to hear. So hopefully we don't have the same kind of shortages and crazy scalpers, even though it's still going to happen. I would assume. We can cross our fingers and hope for the best, but I still think they're going to be coming across shortages because Nintendo's got quite a bit on their plate. They've got the new 2DS XL, which is their big 3DS thing. It's like, well, it's basically a cheaper but XL new 3DS without the 3D. And then, of course, the Switch, they're going to still want to create more and more and more. And since this is coming out on September 27th, they're still going to want to create a whole bunch for the holiday season for Christmas and Thanksgiving, Black Friday, all that stuff. American Thanksgiving and Black Friday. Excuse me. But, so I don't know really how much they're going to make. How many units they're going to create. They said significantly more. I want to say they made 2.5 million Famicom Minis. I don't remember the exact number, but that's a worldwide number, and that's not like a huge amount. That would be like saying, let's stop all Switch production and throw out all excess Switches at the moment and have people, fight over it now, because people want it. People wanted it. They were excited, and they only made like a handful. So I would assume maybe like they might be making 5 million of them. But even then, I don't think that'd be enough to really feed the thirst. But 5 million, 4 million would still be better than what they did. So moving on to other news. So blah blah blah. It wasn't like I don't know why not a lot of people are reporting this. It was reported like back in May quite a bit. People were freaking out, but it wasn't like confirmed. But there is this app that has been in development called the Rainway app, spelled Rain, Rain, W-A-Y, W-A-Y, W-A-Y. And what it is, it's a free app you can download on your phone, you can download it on your I want to say PS4, Xbox One, pretty much all the big ones. And the guy was hinting that he really wanted it on the Switch, and he's already developing it for the Switch. He just needs confirmation from Nintendo to say, yeah, we can put that on here. And it's a free app. It's a free app. And you can also download it on your computer, but that's where the base of operations is, so you don't really do anything there. What it is, let's just get to the point. What it is a streaming app. So what does this mean? I think it's on the PS Vita, for any Vita owners out there. So it'd be like remote play on the PS4. What it is, it's a streaming app. And what that means is that you can stream a game from your Steam library, from Battle.net, from I'm brain farting. GOG, Bethesda, all that good stuff. And play it on any device you want that has the Rainway app. And I think that was the ultimate goal of the guy. He wants to try to stream any PC's thing onto any other electronic device that has the Wi-Fi for it. And of course the Switch has the Wi-Fi for it. So, what does that mean? Brain fart, trying to think of the words. You can basically play anything you want on any device. That means if I really wanted to, I can play StarCraft 1 on my Switch, as long as I'm within the Wi-Fi range. I can find some garbage 50-cent or dollar Steam game and play it on my Switch. Why I would want to taint my Switch with voxelized or something like that is beyond me, but it's just that's I don't know. That's cool. It's like remote play. It's an awesome idea, but now it's the entire PC library. So hopefully that should be pretty cool. That is set to release. So when was that? I want to say it's set to release maybe. Oh, November 25th. Yeah, I tweeted it out. So I was like, okay, well let's just check my Twitter. Yeah. So, yes, stream any PC game you want on anything. November 25th. Pretty cool stuff. I can see that giving the Switch kind of an edge because, it's got the cool remote play of the Vita, but it's to the computer. So, and nobody really had a Vita, so nobody really knew how cool remote play was. So, other thing, little notable release. It's currently in early access is this game called Nex Machina. I haven't picked it up yet, but it looks like everything in my wheelhouse. What it is, it's okay, so it's been co-developed by the same guy that developed Smash TV, Robotron, Defender, and it is the ultimate, people have been praising it as one of the best twin-stick shooters as of recent date or all time or whatever you want to say. But people are just oh my gosh, this game is so freaking awesome, Throw Enter the Gungeon out the window. Nex Machina is where it's at. And I'm only mentioning this because I know some of my listeners out there are retro fans and into twin sticks and roguelikes and roguelites and all that. And that could mean you're into twin sticks as well. So look for that. That's out on Steam, and I believe they're planning to release out on consoles at some point. So look that up if you're interested on Steam. I want to say the going price is $14.99 regular, which reminds me, if you're listening to this, we're probably halfway through the Steam sale already, but the Steam summer sale is going on right now, so hopefully it goes on sale if that's something you're wanting to pick up. It's easily one of their better sales of the year, so go check that out if you're a PC owner. Anywho, what was I moving on to? Now, I didn't do this last time because I couldn't really find anything of notable awesomeness. But it's time for
the IGN news story of the week.
So, back at IGN, our top news source for all gaming and gaming news. They've reported that Star Wars Han Solo will now be directed by Ron Howard. Update number 2, Ron Howard had publicly commented about his appointment as director of the Han Solo spin-off Star Wars film. I'm beyond grateful to add my voice to the Star Wars universe after being a fan since 52577, Howard wrote on Twitter, I hope to honor the great work already done and help deliver on the promise of the Han Solo film. Howard replaces the Lego movie directors Phil Lord and Christopher Miller, who have been shooting with the film since it began production earlier this year before their departure the film was announced. And the article keeps going on, whatever. So yes, thinking about this interesting piece of gaming news, I don't know. Am I interested in the Han Solo film? Maybe a little bit because I'm not like a huge Star Wars junkie. If anything, I'm bigger on Star Trek and all that. But I do know that Han Solo comics are fun because it follows Han Solo, obviously, and it goes into the more nitty-gritty part of his lifestyle of being a smuggler and a playboy. So it's fun shenanigans with somebody that looks like my brain was farting for a second. Harrison Ford, because it is Harrison Ford, or at least a look-alike doppelganger. But Ron Howard is a bit of a cheesy director, so maybe it's actually a really good thing for this series. I can actually see this turning out better, maybe. Though I don't know Phil Lord's and Christopher Miller's prior work, and I'm not that huge of a fan of some of Ron Howard's stuff. I can't think of anything off the top of my head. That's how memorable all his movies are to me. The best thing I can think of when I think of Ron Howard is essentially Archie from Happy Days. That leaves interesting taste in my mouth. We'll swirl that around for a second. Second is over. And IGN has actually graced us with 2 articles this week with top 10 RPG worlds of all time. This isn't anything important, I know, but whatever. But it's fun to read these top 10 lists and see whether or not they're playing to their fans or not. Or really taking into consideration what would be the best worlds to live in. So at number 10 you have New Eden from EVE Online. Never played EVE, but I know a lot about EVE Online. But that's pretty cool. It's a nice little sci-fi world. So Saria Britannia from Ultima is number 9. And the picture they have is just funny because it's from the old DOS version from the 80s. So it's this real blocky, liney, pixely dude with a ditto face. But Ultima's pretty fun, but I never really played all the way through them. They're kind of grindy, but they are fun though. Pokemon World is at number 8, which would be a fun world to live in because you get all them Pokemans and you can catch them and be like, yay, and hopefully skirt natural disaster that would destroy the world every 4 years for every release of the game. The Continent from The Witcher as at number 7. I'm not sure if that one would be really nice to live in because it seems like you can probably get killed relatively easy. Yarnam from Bloodborne. Yeah, I wouldn't want to live there. That's at number 6. That's like Lovecraftian nightmares. It's oh yeah, no, I would love to live in the Bloodborne universe. It's all right, honey, I'm going to go to the store and grab some eggs. And then, as you're doing that, there's a nice little tentacle monster being blah, 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 and there's a yes, that's Bloodborne in a nutshell. Leave your hate comments below. Number 5, Ivalice from Final Fantasy Tactics, Vagrant Story, Final Fantasy 12. I could see that. That could be fun. Sigil, Planescape Torment. I don't believe I ever played that game. I have no comment. Tamarill from the Elder Scrolls. This is the same idea as almost as The Witcher, but I feel like The Witcher would be more dangerous to live in, not a place I would want to be in. Azeroth from World of Warcraft is at number 2. I don't know. There's orcs and the Horde and constant warring and crafting and things. It doesn't seem like a friendly place. You can't leave home if you're not well equipped or good at fighting. You just can't leave your hometown for that sort of thing. This is a terrible list. And at number 1, Lordran from Dark Souls. This is the same thing as Bloodborne. Do I want to be surrounded by essentially soulless dead beings and giant in the first 10 minutes of the game you have that giant ogre looking guy if that's commonplace, I'd be afraid to just go to the bathroom. This list is terrible. You failed me, IGN. All right, let's move on. All right, so first up, Kamiko on the Switch. What did I think of it? First off, I really liked it. It's not like a super deep game, but it's more about the gameplay than the story. The story's pretty basic. It's like, hey, evil dude, take over the shrines, darkness, blah blah blah, bring light to the land, doo, that kind of stuff. I started off the game with the character with that claymore. I forget what her name was, but the character with the claymore. And I should have picked the archer because the archer is a lot easier to play with. But because you could just be like wee and shoot everybody. At that point, it's basically like a overhead shooter. But a lot of people were saying it plays like the older 2D Zeldas, and that is quite true. It has the same kind of feel and mechanics. The combat is relatively simple, but you still have to be on your you still have to pay attention because things can happen relatively quickly, and the enemies that run towards you and just kind of like hang out next to your face and like bite you can knock off a few hearts relatively quickly. So you gotta somewhat pay attention. The puzzles weren't that hard, but they were kind of in line with old school like 2D Zelda puzzles where it's like, oh, take this orb, put it on the put it on the pedestal, find a key. Now you're in a locked area, kill all the baddies, boo. There's some secret passageways, some secret chests. Well, overall, really good stuff. Quite fun. The art looks really good on the Switch screen. It's super crisp, even though it's a very simplified like retro 2D thing. Even though I would say it's like the weird mishmash like art style of like almost like NES graphics with like SNES detail or Sega Genesis detail, where like there's some things that just wouldn't be able to be done on an NES by any means, or it would might look like garbage, but it's just it's pretty good. I like it. I didn't actually finish it. Yes, it's a short game. That's how much free time I had. I'm sorry. I didn't read the book this month. And no, I didn't watch a Let's Play either, so I didn't watch the movie. Though, this is one of those games where I'd say reading the book would be better than the movie because it's all about the gameplay. Unless you like watching, somebody either breeze through it because they've played these kind of games before or struggle yelling at the screen, then yes, go look it up. Let's Plays might be fun depending on who's Let's Playing. But, I can't really, there's not really many complaints about the game because it is only $5. And I think the price of it for the relative length, with the replayability, with the different characters that you can try out, and just the core gameplay is pretty fun, so it holds up. It holds up pretty well. The bosses weren't like really hard or anything. I think there was like one, like most of the bosses maybe took me like an average of 2 to 5 tries, but that's only because it's like, oh well, what am I supposed to do with this boss? But all the bosses are pretty easy, like because they have that little red orb thing. This is if you played the game, little red orb thing you have to hit. So it's like, well, okay, so how am I supposed to get to that if it keeps warping from place to place, or like if it's bouncing around this way and that, or if it's only showing up at this one point? Memorize the pattern, figure it out, and it can be easily done with any of the 3 characters. So yeah, I didn't have too much trouble with the bosses. The bosses were pretty good though, because they were fun. They weren't too easy, but they weren't like, I would say, like strikingly difficult for anybody that's played this sort of game before. And with that, I don't know. There's this is the problem about not playing the games you put on your book club. What else? What else can we talk about? Let's go to this was a dumb idea. So we'll read some questions from fans about this game. And okay, I know what you're gonna say. Pong Sensei, You don't have the fan base for this. No one's asking you any questions. And yes, that's true. But we can outsource these questions from Reddit.com. Ask me anything. So, and just apply it to Kamiko. This seems like a terrible idea, but oh man, okay, whatever. This was the first one that I clicked on. Ex-lifer, ask me anything. I am an ex-convict, having completed what is considered a life sentence of 30 years or more in Indiana prisons. Okay, let's just start adding in Kamiko references. I received early parole. I received an early copy of Kamiko after having completed 4-year college degree. My Kamiko experience included conspiracy to possess the intent to distribute cocaine as a Class A felony, which in Indiana merely consists of choosing one of the three characters. Mavahi asks, "What degrees did you get and why?" He's not answering any of these questions. He only answered like one. No, wait, no, he didn't even answer it. He didn't. What a terrible AMA. Don't. Okay, look. Don't start to ask me anything if people are going to ask you questions and you don't answer them. I feel like posting here and saying, "Can you answer my question?" And not actually ask a question. I just want like a yes or no. Because it said ex-lifer .thI AMA. I thought I didn't know what ex-lifer meant. I thought ex-lifer was like, what does that mean? Did you like die or something and then like come back, or you're talking from beyond the grave? Because I work at Hungry Howie's. Let's click on that. WTF is Hungry Howie's. It's a pizza place. Favorite food on the menu? Barbecue chicken pizza. See, the pizza guy is at least answering some of the questions. Yeah, he stopped answering questions after like 3 questions. Favorite subreddits? Oh, ew. Oh, man. I don't want to ever go to Hungry Howie's now. There is no Hungry Howie's near me. But I've never even heard of Hungry Howie's. So yes, WTF is Hungry Howie's. But I am never going to Hungry Howie's. Because this guy's name, his username is Hairy Toes 2. Ugh. And then if I ever go to a Hungry Howie's, the first thing that's going to pop in my head are just hairy toes. And I don't want to be thinking about toes and toe hair when I'm biting into a nice, like, meat pizza or something. Ugh. No. Okay, we're done with that. Sorry, hairy toes. So yes, those are the questions asked by my loyal listeners about Kamiko. Moving on. Shining Force, the Sword of Hajya, on the Game Gear and Virtual Console. Now, if you didn't pick this one up, I'd say it's okay. But if you were wanting to play a Shining Force game, I would still recommend the Genesis ones. As Shining Force, the Sword of Hajya is on the Game Gear, and it's in comparison to other Shining Force games, it's a bit of a bare bones one. But from what I experienced, it's still super engaging. It doesn't have the same exploration factor or like solid writing. Oh man, I wish I had taken notes on this. But there was just some parts where like the writing was just like, I got the Sword of Hajya. No, chase him. It was just very generic. It's like, you can't stop me. Mwahahahaha. Press A. Mwahahahaha. It's just what's up. The story basically is you get the Shining Force, which is a group of the warriors for the kingdom. They have the Sword of Hajya, which is like their mythical sword. They get attacked and it gets stolen, and Iom, like the evil demon guy, is like, I'm gonna take it, and you're like, no. And the Sword of Hajya is the only sword that can defeat Iom. And then you finally catch up, and Gordon is like, you've fallen right into my trap. You beat him up. And you get the Sword of Hajya back. And at that point, another guy of Iom's like, you've fallen into my trap. And you're stuck on a ship that's headed straight for, I don't remember the name of the kingdom, but we'll just call it Iom Land. And it's like, and then you go in, blah, blah. Later on, you beat up Iom. That's basically the story. There's a bad guy, you beat him. Now, this game, if you didn't play it, plays a lot like Final Fantasy Tactics and Fire Emblem. So it's an SRPG. So you got other types of characters that can level up and promote, similar to Final Fantasy Tactics and Fire Emblem. With Shining Force, you can promote them at level 10, but it's not recommended to promote your characters at level 10. You don't have a choice on what kind of class they are, but that's okay. It's most recommended to level them, like promote them once you hit like 16, 18, maybe 20 if you want to grind that bad. But I didn't push it that far. I was just like, no, I just want the good stuff now. So I hit it early and went 15. But it was, yeah, it's because if I remember right, and I confirmed it on a GameFAQs kind of, but I don't know how reliable this information is. But getting from like 19 to 20 is a pain because the amount of experience points you need to go from 19 to 20 is just ridiculous. But with that, the idea behind that is every time you level up past 10, you keep getting stronger and stronger, and then you restart at level 0 into your new promoted class. And when you restart into your new promoted class, you're now stronger than you would have been if you had promoted at, let's say, right off the bat at level 10. So that's pretty cool. Now, overall, Shining Force of Sword of Hajya was a really engrossing game. It didn't have the same kind of depth. It definitely had the difficulty, and you had to like kind of think through what you were gonna do here and there. But I love strategy games, so that's not a problem for me. So tactically, the game doesn't move like terribly slow either. Though I'd say it moves maybe a little bit slower than a lot of modern iterations of Fire Emblem. If you're into that, it doesn't move as slow as Final Fantasy Tactics, which I was happy about. Even though I like that game, I consider it a excellent SRPG. It's just for some reason it always feels a bit slow. So in terms of like gameplay, just if you just like tear away the storyline and all that, and like compare this to maybe like Final Fantasy Tactics, this one surprisingly for some people might be more fun, which I thought was kind of interesting because it's a Game Gear title and you don't really necessarily expect that from something like a Game Gear or Game Boy, but it is. It's quite fun, and because I didn't actually finish the game all the way through, even though I do kind of know the ending, I decided to get onto GameFAQs, onto their message board, and click on random things. So, what do they say here on GameFAQs? Top 3 favorite and least favorite characters. Let's see if I agree with any of this. In no real order, top characters. Jaha, nuff said. He's got his meat cleaver and keg of beer. Stuff gets hurt. Chester. I love Chester. Chester's awesome. Jaha, always... Oh, I'm always on the fence with Jaha, because Jaha, I love him as a character, because he's basically a barbarian. He just, like, you can run him in, and he just does quite a bit, like, a lot of damage, like, way, like, no, not way later, but once you start leveling him up, he actually becomes one of your main, like, attacking characters. But, like, I always feel like he just gets off on the wrong foot for me playing the game, because the bit of dialogue on that like first or second mission, him and the other character, I can't remember, the monk. They're like skirting their guard duty at the castle, and they're like, "Meh, nothing bad ever happens to here, blah blah blah. What could possibly go wrong, And then suddenly, boom! Oh, I didn't see this coming. There's been an ambush, and suddenly our castle walls are like falling apart like Legos, Mega Blocks, like Mega Blocks, because it's easier to knock down Mega Blocks than Legos. Uh, so yeah, I don't know. I want to say like that first part of the game, I don't like Jaha. Also, his name is kind of weird. It reminds me of the '80s band Aha. And then Sarah, best healer with tons of MP. I would agree with that because once you get Sarah on your team, Slade is absolutely worthless. He's only there to throw medicinal herbs. Least favorites. Slade, outclassed by Sarah in every way and just downright awful when you first get him. They're both healers, essentially. Graham, I'd agree with that too. Or whatever his name is. Sure, he does a lot more damage than Chester, but everything else about him sucks. Even his stupid face. That's what it says. I'm not saying he has a stupid face, nor am I going to confirm or deny that. I'm going to confirm that and possibly agree with that. They do. Some of the character sprite like avatars just look kind of derpy. Dawn, the first two are the only ones I really dislike. Only thing I don't like about her is her attack power is a bit low. Yeah, her defense is high, but defense is for babies, and real men don't get hit. Yeah. Well, I wouldn't put Dawn on least faves. Dawn, like once you like level her up to a paladin, she's defend the best offense is a good defense. I always use Dawn as kind of like the buffer in between like Chester and all that, and even like having like Dawn right there and Natasha right behind and just throwing spells. Someone responded, favorites Rush, awesome battle wise and just looks cool. Sarah, unbelievably useful spells. Chester, deadly powerful and long range attacks. Agreed. Least favorite, Slade, Nick, and Rudd. Nick. Yes, Freeze 3 is broken. There's actually a few topics on just Freeze 3 because that is one point in the game where if you don't know, you can get stuck. The most feared attack in any Shining Force. It's awesome until you start fighting Demon Masters and Death Waldall. They fixed it in Sega CD version. Oh, that's nice to know. Maybe we'll have to pick that one up if we do a Shining Force again. Which we probably will, but not anytime soon because I want to keep this as varied as possible. So, since it is the retro choice, would I say it's worth coming back to? Most definitely. I wouldn't say. I'd say maybe it's a 7 out of 10. Maybe that's higher or lower than what other people are saying. I don't really know. I never really looked into it. I just like SRPGs, so it's just a game that I'd pick up anyways. But it lacks the depth and story of like other Shining Force games or Fire Emblem or, Disgaea or Final Fantasy Tactics, sure. But at its core, it is Shining Force. It still plays like a Shining Force. Now, if you like permadeath, stay away from Shining Force. If you don't like the permadeath factor of Fire Emblem, go right ahead. Pick up all of them Shining Force titles. You'll love it because it doesn't have it. There is the faint. I don't know why I didn't mention this earlier, but there is the faint mechanic that when the character dies in battle, you can't use them again until you raise them in between battles by whoever your leader is, either your character or the other characters. Now, no, not your character, the leader characters. And that costs money, so it's like, well, you sucked in that last battle, so pay the price, that sort of thing. But it's not as bad as a permadeath system. Do I like the permadeath system? I love the permadeath system. It adds like real tension because like you don't want to mess up ever. Shining Force you can mess up here and there. So maybe it's a better like entry series for SRPGs that are like this. So, yeah, I'd say it's still recommendable. It's easy to pick up in the Nintendo eShop on Virtual Console, and I want to say it doesn't go for that much on Game Gear. Game Gear games don't usually go for much. Let's look up the prices real fast here if you're wanting to pick up a copy yourself. Okay, well, it's a higher end Game Gear game, but you might be thinking, well, what does higher end mean? About $40. Maybe, well, no, maybe I'd say maybe like $30. There's one here that has like 3 games, like a 3-game pack for $40. That's what I was looking at on eBay at the moment. Cannot guarantee that it'll still be here when you listen to this, but it's got Chuck Rock. Not, if I remember right, Chuck Rock's not a game worth playing. Maybe I'm getting confused, but it's not a game really worth playing. What looks to be the original Sonic the Hedgehog one. No, Sonic Chaos. That one's actually really good on Game Gear. If you like Sonic games, it's not at the same level of quality as the Genesis games, of course, but it's easily my second favorite Sonic game on the Game Gear. Triple Trouble is the best on the Game Gear, and then Shining Force. So that's So honestly, it's a little bit higher than some of the other Game Gear titles I've seen, but it's not too bad. Yeah, $30. That seems. We'll just say $33 is the average. So yeah, if you want to pick up the physical copy, roughly $33 as of 6/26, 2017 is the average price from just like a quick look over. Moving on, Mega Man 2 for the Game Boy and Virtual Console. Now, I didn't actually read the book on this one. I'm sorry. I didn't watch the movie either. I didn't get very far in it either because I was like, okay, it always got pushed to the back burner. I was like, well, it's Mega Man. I can finish that later. I know how to play Mega Man. I know what goes on in Mega Man 2. I gotta finish Shining Force, you know. So from the little bit that I played, no, I didn't even get past the first 4 robot bosses, so I didn't get into that little area of with the other robot bosses and Dr. Wily. But here I'm gonna refer to the game facts again and give like if you couldn't get past any of the levels, you start with Airman, go to Crashman, go to Metal Man, go to Woodman, because Airman is good against Crash, Crash is good against Metal, and Metal's weapon is good against Wood. Blah blah blah. After that, once you get into the other level, next part. Now I'm like really referring to the game facts here because I didn't get to this point. Start with the down right area with Needle Man, then go to down left with Magnet Man, then go to upper left with Hard Man, and upper right with Top Man. And with Quint, just shoot him at the head. Yeah, that the dumb pogo stick thing. Kind of remember that from like years ago. That was pain. But honestly, I think I maybe should have picked up a different Mega Man on the Game Boy. I originally wanted to play Mega Man 1, but I messed up on like typing in like and mentioning what Mega Man game I was playing, so I was just like, oh, whatever. Mega Man 2 is easy to pick up, so just do that. But I'm not sure if it's exactly the weakest of the Game Boy games for in terms of Mega Man, but it's definitely not one of the better ones. It's, from what I've seen and from heard people say over the years, it's like the black sheep of the Mega Man on Game Boy, which is kind of sad. But it's still, I would say it's still a fun game. And only really fun if you enjoy Mega Man, because I had fun with it. But, you kind of have to be a hardcore Mega Man fan at that point to like truly enjoy it. Would I say it's recommended to like look back on? Only if you're a Mega Man fan, like a die-hard Mega Man fan, and have played Mega Man 2 on the NES. Well, but it does play a little bit differently because you don't have the full like NES screen. You're cramped on a Game Boy screen, so your field of view is a little bit smaller. So everything is just a little bit more cramped, similar to like a Super Mario Land game where sometimes the game is cramped, like not Super Mario Land, but Super Mario Brothers Deluxe on the Game Boy Color. That one has a pretty bad FOV if you're used to the original Super Mario Brothers, because it's like you just can't see that far. It's like Mario needs glasses because he can't see more than 10 feet away. That sort of thing. But it doesn't mean it's not a fun game, because it is. There is fun to be had. So, but if you're nitpicky about that kind of stuff, if you're used to more like the newer Mega Man titles, maybe Mighty Gunvolt title, like Gunvolt title, or from what I've heard, Mighty Gunvolt Strike on the Switch and other systems that may be on, and like that type of game, maybe the Mega Man X series. I would say this one's easily forgettable. You don't need to pick it up. You don't need to play it, and it shouldn't be that expensive if you do want to actually like buy it for like playing purposes or collection. Whoa, just kidding. Oh, no, never mind. That's completely sealed in box. So that means it's got everything that came with the original. Okay, I was like, oh, how much does Mega Man 2 go for? It's going for $164. No. Oh, okay. That's more than I thought. So I would have said last time I picked up Mega Man 2, it was only like $3, but this was like years ago. So, I guess Game Boy games are actually going up in price, but it's still not that bad. It's like it looks to be like an average of like $14. So maybe the collectability of this one is higher than others. I'm not sure why. I would think the other Mega Man games would go for quite a bit higher. Interesting. I don't pay attention to the prices on the used market all too often, so I apologize for that. So, what do people say? And what do my fans ask for me of what I thought about Mega Man X? I mean, from Mega Man 2 on the Game Boy. Generic White Melee asks, I survived severe general tetanus when I was 16. How was the gameplay? Sometimes you would think with these kind of games it would play a little bit slower because it doesn't have the processing power, but that's not really the case. It plays fine. It feels and plays exactly like a it feels exactly like a regular Mega Man game. SDHU asks, how's it compared to General Tso? I don't I'm always in the mood for General Tso. General Tso's chicken I would have to say General Tso's chicken is better than Mega Man 2 on the Game Boy. Was this traumatic, and did you believe you were going to survive? Well, playing this game wasn't that bad of an experience. I had fun with it, so yes, there was always light at the end of the tunnel. I've had several nails through my foot. Okay, I'm done. Let's move on. That got graphic. So moving on to Rune Factory on the DS. Ha! I didn't. You might think, oh, this is where the twist comes in. Pong really did have time, but Shining Force and Rune Factory took it all up. No, no, no. I didn't read the book either on this one, though I do remember a lot from it, and it was kind of cool to go down memory lane. Though at the same time, I didn't realize exactly what I was getting myself into last time I decided, hey, let's just throw in Rune Factory. I know it takes forever, but it's still a fun game. And yeah, it is. I enjoy it, but looking back on it now, and I was like, wait a second. How do I raise the heart levels of these characters? How do I Oh boy. There's going to be a lot of grinding, isn't there? Oh boy. I'm going to I'm gonna have to play through this entire storyline, right? Okay, yeah, that's right. Oh boy. So really, I, I knew right off like the bat after maybe like 2 hours of playing, I was like, yeah, there's no way I'm gonna be able to finish this one in time for the podcast. No way in all balls that I'd be able to finish. And then I remembered, I was like, oh yeah, the the Bachelorette choices. Personally, not as good as like the other games out there. Though some of the characters are are fun. I forget what his name was. Cadmus, the guy that runs the blah blah blah. No. It was the son of the innkeeper. He's a little d bag. His manipulative, getting the other the store owner, no, yeah, store owner, the creeper guy Newman to hide out. I think I remember, if I remember right, being like one of the first times you meet him, and then you meet him in the dungeon, and then he gets all jelly when you're able to like move on to other dungeons. But I don't know. I never really this looking back on it. There's a lot. It's not as straightforward as other like Harvest Moon games or Rune Factory games out there, where it's just like, oh, do this, this, and this, and then boom, you can get married. It's like all character specific. These things have to get finished before you can marry this one character. This character is obviously a lot easier to marry because you don't have to actually finish the game, and then like other characters, you have to finish the game, and then like this other character who's the like an admiral or like a general or something, like a sergeant or a lieutenant of the sex army is like, hey, blah blah blah. They're just in the game, in and out, and then they move to your town once you beat the game, and then they open up as a bachelorette. So like that's maybe like 1 to 2 to 3 years in game time, depending on how slow you're going with the actual storyline, trying to figure out the mystery of why are all the monsters popping up again, that sort of thing. So really, this kind of game you really need to actually have the time to sit down and play it. You like really need to. It's not going to be able to be possible without it. It's I can imagine it has one of those games to be, well, I'm going to spend my summer playing this game and all that kind of stuff. Unless you have a lot of free time, then expect maybe like a month of playing. It's one of those games that you can actually play throughout like a real year and maybe not unlock all the content. So Because really, depending on how you play, if you're just concentrating on upgrading your house and all that, maybe you're not going through the storyline necessarily. But because of all this, because of the weird, like, complicated matter of like really having to get to know the characters and having to go through the storyline and just to like, progress the story and like upgrade your house and even get a hammer like right off the bat. It's like I'm not sure if I'd really say it holds up for like a first time player. It's more the game a Rune Factory fan if you've played maybe like Rune Factory 2, 3, or 4 maybe, and then want to play a handheld version. So overall, I'm not. It's definitely a game I'm going to sit back down to at some point because I want to play it. I want to. I don't think I actually ever finished the game, and now I know. Now I remember why. So maybe like maybe not anytime soon when I actually have more time to actually sit down and play. Everything in this game is a bit convoluted at times, and I think that's the biggest shortfall of it. Whereas other games, like other Rune Factory titles, it's not as convoluted, it's not as confusing or like not really spoken of how to get to achieve certain goals. It's like it's not necessarily the easiest game to pick up for anybody that's just trying to pick it up real fast as a casual game. It's not really a casual game by any means. So overall, I would have to say, I don't really recommend it, unfortunately. I'd still give it a higher rating. I'd give it a solid 7. Because from what I did play, I did enjoy it. I just realized maybe it's not the best game for everybody that wants to get into this sort of game. Maybe you're used to more of like a Harvest Moon where it's just like, oh, there are these side things, but you don't have to do it. In this, there are those side things, but you have to do it. So at that point, you are set to go down that linear path of saying, hey, this is what needs to be done, and before I can really start messing around in the game, I need to get this questing done. But that was the big draw of the game when it first came out, because there was no like fantasy RPG Harvest Moon with those dungeons. So this being the first one, it still holds up for its time. It was excellent. As of now, there are better options out there. I would possibly recommend. I didn't actually ever play it, but Muka holds it in higher regard. Rune Factory Tides of Destiny? Yeah, Rune Factory Tides of Destiny on the Wii. I'd recommend Rune Factory 4 on the... Oh. Okay. Rune Factory Frontiers, supposedly really good on the Wii. Oh, it's also for the PS3 and Wii, Tides of Destiny. And then I'd recommend Rune Factory 4 on the 3DS. And then one game, if you do get into this series, I would not recommend would be Innocent Life on the PSP. Oh, it's at first, before I fell into the void that is Harvest Moon: The Lost Valley, I considered Innocent Life to be the worst Harvest Moon game and spin-off of all time. Because, well, okay, it's gameplay-wise, it's relatively solid because, you got that farming aspect and all that. But because it's a futuristic sci-fi Harvest Moon. That's where it falls apart. Everything is like automated. Like once it's like the Harvest sprites, but tenfold. If you've ever messed with the Harvest sprites in the Harvest Moon game, like the ones where like they would start doing the work for you, but it's like now you just got robots running around your farm doing all the farm work, and you're like, all right, time to talk to the villagers. Nope. Yes, there's villagers, but you can't fall in love because guess what? You're a robot. You cannot have kids. You cannot get married. That game is an empty shell of disappointment. Similar to Lost Valley, but not as bad. So, overall, would I recommend it? Only if you're a die-hard Harvest Moon fan and you've played other Harvest Moon games and Rune Factory games in the past. But I wouldn't say it's a good entry title. I would say it's actually more of like, oh, this is the third game I've played of the Rune Factory series. That sort of thing, or the kind of gamer that likes, convoluted mysteries, or like sitting down with like a walkthrough and being like, well, how do I get this character to fall in love with me? How do I get this character to fall in love with me? How do I get married to this character? If you like more complicated steps and like to-do lists, that sort of thing, because there are gamers out there that like this kind of complexity in farming life sims. But it's not everyone's cup of tea. So yes, I think I will stick with a 7 out of 10. It's a solid game. Now, I'd say a 6.5 out of 10. It's a solid game, but it's... No, I'm going to say a 7 out of 10. Because I think the core gameplay is super fun. It's fun fighting monsters, it's fun upgrading your equipment, it's fun getting better things, it's fun learning them spells, and it's fun trying to figure out how to get other characters to fall in love with you. But it's not the easiest game to get into. It takes some time. It really does take some time. It's that like long boil that like bubbles and stuff and like it gets in your fingers and toes, and at that point you do enjoy it. But maybe you did enjoy this. Maybe you actually played this all the way through, unlike me. Maybe you read the book. Let me know down in the description below. What was your favorite part? Who's your favorite bachelorette? So let's actually go to that, because that's always a thing about this. Who's my favorite bachelorette? Well, Rosetta is the easiest, but I don't know. Her sprite comes off as maybe just a little bit creepy. And she's constantly talking about, Mist and being like, she's my rival, meh, and it's just like obsessed, and I don't feel like that's a good personality trait. Mist, on the other hand, is the better choice, but you gotta beat the game to even, have that, to let the love bloom. You gotta beat the game. But she's there the entire time. Yes, she's derpy and clueless, but she's still an overall nice character. But I wouldn't say she's necessarily the best. Maybe I think my favorite characters for the Bachelorettes would have to be maybe Lara, maybe Lynette. I'll say easily on the top tier of the list would be Melody and Tori, only because they're seemingly the friendliest. Tori is the girl that works in the library, and Melody is the girl that runs the spa. And overall, it's easy to get the love points on Melody and friendship points on Melody because all you have to do is take a bath every day. That's easy. Tori, a pretty similar thing, just read a book every day from the library. So, But personality-wise, I think they're the best, and then maybe Mist would be a close third. So those are my choices. What are your choices? Leave them down below. Anywho, I gotta get going because I'm cramped on time today, and it's not exactly in the middle of the night, so that's why I don't sound exactly tired, but I'm very rambly, and I probably should have napped before work. So, where can you find me? You can find me at youtube.com/Mr. Sensei Pong, at Twitter at Sensei_Pong, and on Facebook /Sensei Pong. You could also, if you're listening to this on YouTube, you can find this podcast as the Sensei Pongcast, Video Game Book Club, or Video Game Book Club by Sensei Pongcast, or whatever it's called, on iTunes and Android. It is free to download. And, next month's games. For the main episode, which is going to be posted in the next 2 weeks, we've got KROSMAGA on PC Steam. It's a TCG game, Serious Sam the First Encounter, the first one for PC Steam, and a visual novel, Lucy the Eternity She Wished For, a visual novel on Steam and PC. Why is it all on PC? It's because there was a lot of Nintendo and handheld love and console love these last 2 episodes, so I was just like, okay, well let's just mix it up and throw out a whole bunch of PC games. I haven't played Lucy the Eternity She Wished For, but I heard it's a real heartbreaker, so I'm kind of excited to see this one. It shouldn't take you more than like 6 to 10 hours to get through it and maybe see a couple different endings. After that, by the end of next month, the extra credit episode will include Has Been Heroes on the Nintendo Switch as a new game, Sonic Chronicles, The Dark Brotherhood on the DS for the retro title, and for our wild card, we've got Crisis in the Kremlin, a political strategy game for the PC and Steam. So stay tuned. Again, that's KROSMAGA, PC Steam, Serious Sam the First Encounter, Lucy the Eternity She Wished For, Has Been Heroes, Sonic Chronicles, The Dark Brotherhood, the coveted only Sonic RPG out there, and Crisis in the Kremlin. So, I hope you enjoyed this. Thank you for listening. Until next time, Sensei Pong signing out.